They put him in a horror film, not as a metaphor, not as folklore, as the demon itself. The face that launched 1,000 nightmares, carved into a green rubber mask, sold to children every October since 1973. But 4,000 years before that film existed, a mother in ancient Mesopotamia held a bronze figurine of that exact same face over her newborn's crib. Not to ward him off, to summon him. Something in this story doesn't add up. And the answer to why is buried in a contradiction so strange that modern archaeologists still argue about it. How did the most feared entity in the ancient Near East become the thing parents trusted most to keep their children alive? His name was Pazuzu, king of the wind demons, son of Hanbai, ruler of the Lilu spirits. Look at him, and your body reacts before your mind catches up. A human torso, muscled and grotesque, the head of a lion fused with the snarl of a dog, talons where feet should be, a scorpion's tail curling up behind him like a weapon aimed at his own back, and wings, enormous, feathered, spread wide enough to blot out the sun. The Assyrians and Babylonians didn't design this to be beautiful. They designed it to be undeniable. A creature built from the most dangerous parts of 5 different predators, assembled into one silhouette that could stop a raiding army in its tracks. He controlled the southwest wind. In Mesopotamia, that wind carried famine, drought, and disease across the desert. Pazuzu didn't just represent destruction. He was the weather system that could starve an entire civilization. And yet this is the figure that ended up strapped to the wrists of infants. To understand why, you have to meet someone worse. Her name was Lamashtu, and unlike Pazuzu, there was no ambiguity in how the Mesopotamians saw her. She was a goddess of pure malevolence, born from divine parents but banished from heaven for her nature. Her signature crime, the one recorded again and again on clay tablets and stone amulets, was singular and horrifying. She hunted pregnant women. She slipped into homes at night to poison mothers' milk, to steal infants from their cribs, to bring miscarriage, crib death, and disease into houses that had done nothing to deserve it. There was no negotiating with Lamashtu, no ritual that fully stopped her. She was chaos with intent. So the priests of Mesopotamia did something that should sound familiar to anyone who has ever fought fire with fire. They looked at their arsenal of terrifying entities and asked a brutal question. Which monster is strong enough to fight her? Only one name came up. Pazuzu was Lamashtu's rival. Ancient texts describe him driving her back to the underworld, forcing her away from the beds of the sick and the cribs of the newborn. He didn't do this out of kindness. Demons in Mesopotamian belief weren't moral. He did it because their territories collided, because his power over disease and wind gave him leverage over hers. But leverage was enough. If Pazuzu could scare off Lamashtu, then Pazuzu could be summoned, and a terrified population facing an infant mortality rate we can barely comprehend today didn't care whether their protector was good. They cared whether he worked. This is where the archaeology gets strange. Museums across the world, the Louvre, the British Museum, the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin, hold small bronze and terracotta heads of Pazuzu, no bigger than a thumb. Most have a small ring at the top of the skull, a ring for a cord to hang around a neck or tie to the frame of a bed. These weren't temple offerings. They were personal, domestic, urgent, excavated from private homes, often in rooms associated with birth and infancy. Some plaques show Pazuzu's face at the top, standing guard, while the rest of the scene depicts Lamashtu being physically expelled below him, dragged toward a boat that will carry her back to the underworld. Think about what that image was doing in a Mesopotamian household. A mother, likely losing children to diseases with no name and no cure, hangs a demon's face above her bed, not as a decoration, as a bodyguard. One particular bronze statuette, now housed in the Louvre, is considered the finest surviving example of Pazuzu iconography in the world. Every terrifying detail is rendered with obsessive precision, the very same details that later cultures would strip of context and rebrand as pure evil. The irony is almost unbearable. The face parents once trusted to guard a crib is the same face a horror franchise chose specifically because it looked like it belonged to nothing but darkness. So how did the story flip? Mesopotamian religion didn't survive intact. Empires fell. Languages died. The cuneiform tablets that explained Pazuzu's dual nature went silent under centuries of sand, and by the time archaeologists dug them back out in the 19th and 20th centuries, the nuance was gone. What remained was the image, and images without context default to the darkest possible reading. Later religious traditions, working without the original texts, saw a winged, clawed, snarling figure and filed it under one category: demon, full stop. No protector, no rival to something worse. Just evil catalogued and closed, and popular culture finished the job. When a production team went looking for the most unsettling face in the ancient world to represent possession itself, they found Pazuzu's statue in a museum catalogue and never looked back. No footnote about infant amulets, no mention of Lamashtu, just the face. This is how history erases complexity, not through lies, but through convenience. A 5,000-year-old belief system reduced to a single frame of a horror film. The real Pazuzu was never simple. He was a threat that Mesopotamians decided to point at a bigger threat, a weapon they chose to keep close rather than destroy. Here's what should unsettle you. The people who lived closest to Pazuzu, who carved his face and buried his statues under their own doorframes, never asked whether he was good. They asked whether he was useful, whether he stood between them and something worse. That's a colder, older kind of morality than the one we tell ourselves we have today. We want our protectors virtuous. We want the line between guardian and monster to stay clean. Mesopotamia didn't have that luxury, and maybe that's the more honest position. Because somewhere in every culture, in every era, there's a Pazuzu. Something terrifying enough to keep at your door specifically, because it terrifies everything else that might come near. The Louvre statue still sits behind its glass case today. Thousands of visitors walk past it every year, most of them recognizing the face from a film rather than a crib. Almost none of them know they are looking at what may be the ancient world's most misunderstood guardian. If a demon could be trusted to protect a child, what does that tell you about the gods we did trust completely? That's next. Subscribe to Temple of Mysteries, because the line between protector and monster runs through almost every civilization we are about to uncover.